Australia. I live in Sydney now. I used to be a lot more involved in the ski industry, and I've been on the Australian demo team as a telemark representative and an Alpine representative, and worked for the APSI as an examiner and trainer for quite a while. And now I have my own business called Functional Body, and that was basically my interest in how the body works. To help me, really it was selfish, I wanted to understand how the body worked better so I could ski better. But then I've taken that and I try and help others do the same, but also just everyday people with aches and pains in different parts of their body, try and help that. But this lecture is going to be a lot less about the body and actually more about the skis, because I got to a point where it's like there's only so much you can really do with your body before you have to understand really how the piece of equipment you're riding behaves. And once you understand that, then actually a lot of the body stuff makes way more sense. You need to have an understanding of both. It sort of all comes around. We're all here to really make turns. So how does a ski turn? So simply, there's two real ways. One, you're either using the side cut of the ski, or two, the ski is being steered, and when that's happening, there is skidding going on. Okay? Skidding is usually given a bad name, but I don't think it is. It's just how a ski pivots and twists on the snow, so it can change its direction. Actually, I might start out the reason why I got so into this was I have a podcast called Global Skiing, and I interviewed the guy. His name is Yuri Franco, and he developed the first shape ski for Alana. So he was an engineer, mathematician, and they hired him on a project to figure out how to make a better ski. So he invented the first sort of really shaped side cut ski. And I interviewed him, and he busted quite a few myths, which I'll hopefully help some people here bust as well. One of which being that how to bend a ski, and that you can bend a ski more than its side cut allows. So hopefully you'll understand if that's possible or not really possible after this lecture. So, using the side cut, skidding and steering. So, using the side cut, there are basically two things that need to happen. The ski has to be tilted on its edge. And when it's on its edge, without any load, you'll notice now the side cut is going to come into play, because you've only now got, with no load, the tail and the tip touching. Okay? The second step is when it gets loaded, depending on how far it's tipped over, the load just presses the side cut gradually, further and further onto the surface until it fits. And Yuri Franco uses this word, I think it's a really good description, like the ski gets bent until it fits on the snow. Okay? I brought a ski along over here. We'll see. I thought it was going to be carpet, so it's a bit trickier, but here. Take the brake out of the way. So everyone can see there that at the moment the side cut doesn't fit the table. Right? I can get my finger under there, and then if I pull it, now it's fitting the table. Okay? When it's fairly flat, it doesn't take much effort, and there's not a lot of bend before it fits the snow. So can you see there's a relationship between the more it's bent, more it's tipped over, the more it can bend. Okay? Once it fits the snow, you think of the hardest icy snow. This would be the same kind of surface. Once it fits the snow, it can't bend further. right? So anytime someone's telling you, hey, you need to bend the ski more, if your thought process is, right, I'm going to push on it more, what's going to happen? Yeah, nothing. Probably it's going to push back at you and you're just going to feel like you're pushing harder, like I'm going to bend the floor more. It's not possible. It's not possible. But because, we'll get onto something pretty soon, because there's kind of a sweet spot that the ski fits the snow on, often when you try and do that pushing to bend it more, you stuff it up and the ski starts to become unstable and goes into a skid. So really just everyone must take this away. The amount of force or load I'm putting on the ski to make the side cut fit the snow, that's not even close to how much just my body weight would be. So your body weight is plenty enough to bend a ski. People don't bend a ski well because they don't know how to tip it over further to allow it to bend. Everyone following so far?
Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to tip it, and then all you've got to do is balance in the middle because your weight is enough of a load to fit the side cut to the side. So, you can see here, Marcel Hirscher has got a fair bit of edge angle. From this top view, can you see that there is not a lot of bend in the ski? Yeah. So when you see photos of like you might see photos one time of a free skier bending a ski a lot, it's not really impressive. If the ski is bending a lot, something's probably going to go wrong next. Because you don't want to, like towards the tip and the tail of the ski, it's a lot less stiff and quite unstable, and if you put loads too far up either end there, the ski behaves very differently. So you can't bend a ski more than it fits the snow. Here we go, let's have a look at one example. So when the snow gets softer, let's see, when it gets softer, so this is my friend Paul skiing down the super trail. Really nice morning of soft snow. You can see how much the ski kind of digs in. And because it's not this like nice, consistent, solid surface, watch the tip go bent and then now loses. See that? So the deformation, because the soft snow is pushing really hard and his weight's not exactly centered, so the tip bends, and then that almost sends a shock wave through the ski, and then look what happens just a moment later. Boom, he's flush, there's no, that's in the air. Yep, and it's gone from being pointing in this direction, and now it's pointing this way. So it's lost its direction, because it's like over bent. So he's just put too much into that ski, because there was a camera there and he wants to show himself doing this. That's often what happens on that snow. It might have been different if it was really solid, firm snow. Through here, you can almost see, because he's leant in to try and show off, this ski is bending. This is not really bending that much. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Coming around. But it's not a heap. Notice he's got pretty much as much edge angle as you could get on a ski before you're going to fall over. And it's not bent a heap, so would be over bending a ski. I think a lot of us try to do that a little too much. Okay, so where is the best place to pilot the ski from? Well, it depends. So Yuri said there's pretty much mathematically one spot on any ski where the side cut fits perfectly. Okay, and what he means by that is, I'll show you a video in a second, but because the middle of the ski is thicker and stiffer than the tip and the tail, because it's thicker material, but you've also got a binding plate and a binding, so that all makes it stiffer. That part of the ski is much harder to create torsion. Like, I can't really do that. But if I get up here, oh, there we go, I can get a little bit of torsion or twist, so this way, because it's thinner, so it's easier to twist. Here is thicker, stiffer, so harder to create that torsion. So there is a spot, because this is not the same thickness all the way along, there's one spot where your load is, where the ski fits really well, and the tip and the tail are have the least amount of torsion on it. But what's wrong with torsion? If you imagine that's my ski, and I'm trying to get that thing to fit and hold on the snow, can you see that's a bit of a problem? Yep, because it's, like, think of these as edge angles. So there's a lot of edge angle, that's a lot less. So on one ski you're standing on, say there's torsion at the front, you're experiencing less grip at the front, more grip at the back. The difference between that will always try and resolve itself and will create some kind of twist. Yep. Okay. So, yeah, one sort of perfect spot somewhere in the middle. You have to find it. Every ski is different, and everyone's body mass is distributed differently. So you sort of feel it a bit different. But you want to try and figure out where that is. When the balance or the load is in front of that point, you get this torsion. Now, it's not always just a bad thing, which is what I'm going to cover with the skidding and steering. And I should say, balance behind the binding also creates more torsion at that point. It does one other thing as well. Where's that video? So this is a video Yuri made. Next video. Okay, so this wood simulates like a 40-degree pitch. He's showing that, like, see how with 10 kilos there's still a gap. So 10 kilos is not enough to press the side cut onto the snow. Okay, he's using that knife to try and find how much. Oh, here we go, 25 kilos. It's now pretty much fitting the snow. So the ski is bent. Okay. So now he's going to move, so no load. He's now putting weight forward of the binding. So it's not coming down here, load is more pressured here. And watch what happens. This bit fits on the snow, and then back until this point doesn't. Yep. He's put 20 kilos on. So remember, it only took 25 to fit the ski on the snow perfectly. So with 25 kilos loaded in front of the binding now, could you see you could get the knife under? So the back half of the ski is essentially not contacting the snow as much. Just going to stop that. So if the back half of the ski is not contacting the snow as much, the front is, plus there's torsion. This creates a friction difference. There's more friction at the tip, less at the tail. So what happens? Yeah, it starts rotating. So skidding in a turn is just a rotation of the ski because there's a friction difference and there's an edge angle difference tip to tail. So if you want to make that happen really quick, you want to put the load further forward. Yep. But if you want to stop it, you then need to move the load further back. now putting it at the back, and you see this bit fits. The full load, 25, all that's needed to bend this ski, and the whole front half of the ski is off. He's next going to show you torsion. So he's going to measure the angle that the ski sort of changes along the length. So he's got the iPhone up here, measuring the angle. So 7.5 degrees. So the middle, if you've got a 9.4 degree here, 7.5 at the front, there's less at the front. So it's just showing you what I was saying before, the difference in edge angle throughout the ski when the load is, see the weight is, more forward. When it's more centered, these become closer to the same value. Okay? That's all you've got to know from there. Anyone got any questions so far?
It's talking about body position, not binding position on the ski.
Yes, load. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Where the binding is will affect how you have to position yourself to put the load. Okay, so here's where the body kind of comes into play. It's really important because your feet is probably the most important place where you'll feel whether or not you're on that sweet spot and get feedback as to whether that friction difference and the twisting and skidding is happening. So a lot of people I work with that come in with pain, a lot of the time they have very poor awareness in their feet or very poor awareness in one foot due to an injury or something. And I mean, there's lots of theories out there why people lose awareness in their feet. One is we're always in shoes, less bare feet. We're always in cushion shoes, which just dulls kind of the sort of forces you get through your feet. What I found really interesting, a guy did a collection. There's like people think that there's a better way to run, like you should run forefoot, you shouldn't run heel strike, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that, you should wear minimalist shoes, you should wear cushion shoes, you should have a heel, you shouldn't have a heel. There's all this debate. This guy collected a lot of the research on that, and he basically said your body, doesn't matter what kind of is going on, your body is always seeking a certain amount of ground reaction force to work with. So if you've got really cushioned shoes, you'll strike the ground harder because you need to hit it harder to get through all that soft stuff to then push on you to then get you moving again. Whereas if you've got less cushion, you don't need to hit the ground to seek that amount of force. So I found that really, really interesting because it kind of blows everything. It's like, well, then you can just use whatever you want. Your body's smart enough that it'll just try and find the force it needs to move forward or to jump or whatever. But yeah, having more cushioned shoes, you're going to be having to work harder or more of a cushioned interface. That's possibly why some people lose a bit of awareness. Plus, you sit down a lot, you don't need to practice feeling that sort of stuff. So, yeah, to give you an example, one of the things I studied looks at the link between like a lot of the connective tissue, your ligaments, and there's good research to show that each ligament and almost each fibre of a ligament has a neural connection to a particular muscle. So just as an example, your medial tibiocalcaneal ligament, which is here, that ligament has a connection to your quadriceps. Okay? So I'm wondering if we can try and do this. Do you want to come up for a moment? Okay. Will you come up? We need your chair. So I'm just going to show you this. And it kind of comes back, I was talking about the body seeking a certain amount of load time if you have a seat. And then over that load, you'll end up having this automatic switch off of muscles. So I'm going to test, what's your name? Momo? Momo's quadricep muscle. So can you hold your leg like this? I'm going to try and bend it. So you just resist. Yeah, you ready? Go. So it's pretty strong. You can feel it, you can resist. If I go and stretch the medial tibiocalcaneal ligament just a couple of times, we'll see if there's a change. You ready? No change. But if I stretch it a lot, telling her brain that there's a lot of load going through this ligament, a lot of load, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, now she starts to resist. And look, what happened to her quadricep? Was strong before, you feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Weakens. That's just that's just an example to show how clever your nervous system is. It's just always reading load through different parts of your body, through your feet, to then keep you safe. So if there's a certain amount of load coming through here, and Momo's brain is reading that, it's going to go, whoa, 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 like stop resisting it, we could cause some damage. What's that? So all along your foot, your feet have super rich in sensory kind of picking up tissues and nerves. So if you can start to train your body and your brain to start paying attention to it more, you'll really find you'll be far more athletic and balanced and quick with all your things because you're listening to something, a part of your body that's trying to tell you the forces and stuff you're experiencing. And you think about it, say you're at that point where you're loading in front of that, I'm just going to call it the sweet spot. You're loading there a lot, so then this skid happens, and that's causing some bumping. Yep, if you're really smart, your feet should feel that straight away and then start adjusting all the muscles to move your center of mass back into the sweet spot. But if you're just not paying attention, if you're paying attention to, I've got to angulate because that's what all the good guys do, or I've got to, get my skis over because that's what all the guys do, or I've got to be forward because I know I've always got to be forward. You're not listening to the piece of equipment that you're riding around on the mountain. And I think that's the most important thing. And it made me think of the other day we had a technical competition, and Tim Cave won it, and Tim and the other people competing. Like if you watch his style, and he'll agree with this, it's not the prettiest style. But if you watch the skis do way better things than the rest of us. And Tim's competed at the Olympic Games, so where they don't care what you look like, they just care if you get down the hill fast. So he just learned to listen to his equipment and try and get his equipment to work properly. So I think it's really good to sometimes get away from style. Function over form. Okay, so I was saying, using this to your advantage. So it's not that you don't want to be able to move along the length of the ski, because now you guys hopefully have a better understanding of if you get, I'm going to call it front side heavy of the binding, you can create torsion and that friction difference. Now steering is very easy. So your legs want to turn. With my group the other day, I got them to stand there, and I said, stand in your best ski stance, and they stood there, and I grabbed the tail of the ski, so they're there standing, and I grabbed the tail of the ski, and I said, if I can pull this away, then when you go down the hill, as you pick up a bit of speed, I bet you the ski is going to skid. So I grabbed there, and I just pulled, and every single person, the first time I grabbed there, it went away. Because their first thought is ski stance is this picture, not what does it feel like to stand along the length of the ski. Yep. But they would all be in the right position, and I can tell you they all skid pretty well, and for the most part, and can get the ski to start turning on itself because they live too much front side heavy all the time. Let's have a look at an example. So, Riley on the left, Paul Lorenz on the right. Have a look at the end of the turn. See if this will work. No, it's not going to work. End of the turn. Can you see his centre of mass looks kind of back seats? Yep. Yep. He's got to be there in order to make sure the ski doesn't slide away. At the end of the turn, you do not want it to slide away. Looking from there, that's a couple of frames later. Can you see how quickly he's gotten forward? Yep. And he's actually ever so slightly front side heavy. And the way I've started to kind of figure this out is if you could freeze frame a person at that point on the slope, take their skis off and get them to stand there, would they fall forward or would they stay in about the same spot? If they fall forward, you're front side heavy. So he's a little bit front side heavy there, and you can even see there's going to be a little, like a slight, like pivot. Well, there you go, you can see the snow's coming off. But watch how he's already starting to move his feet forward and allow his mass to sort of stay in the same spot to line up, so that then his load goes into that center point. The same with Paul. Tips are off the snow. He's back. He's gotten further forward again, so he can steer it a little further, and then see he uses even more than Riley. He plays with a lot more fore and aft, and you'll see a lot of Paul's turns. He's trying to come out of a turn and actually have quite a large direction change, not just pure carve the whole thing, because he wants to create a collision, I guess, come out with momentum this way, put his skis across the line of travel, hit it, and bounce. So he needs to play with a lot more fore and aft to be able to do that. I think this is a really good view. I'll bring up Coach's eye. This is Ted Ligety from above. And what I want you guys to notice is how much fore and aft movement goes on. So look where his hips are relative to the middle of the binding. Centre of mass, more centred, 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 and then actually behind through the end. Forward, a little bit front side heavy here. Watch how fast he'll move his feet through here. So when I look around the hill, I see a lot of the people in this room, and I'm being a bit general, I don't know, but I'm guessing, because most people on the hill don't move their feet like this enough, because they're not thinking about what the ski's doing and trying to stay in the middle of the side cut of it. Is that a good visual for everyone to see how much movement? Oh, look at that. There's some other things going on too. He's trying to get his centre of mass to flow down and across the skis much quicker so he doesn't lose connection with the snow. Cool. So then, okay, so here's a couple of examples of people, the load of the way they position their body puts that torsion on the ski and creates that friction difference between the tip and the tail. So can you see those, like, pretty obvious examples, yes? Yeah. Have people in the room seen themselves in similar kind of positions? Yeah. No. Never. So, like, I'm just reiterating again, you've got to always come back to whatever your coach is doing, you've got to come back to thinking, is this making a difference to how my ski performs? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're riding, that's what you're trying to do. So there's just, that's me in a sort of a basic parallel, what these people were trying to do. You can see the difference in the position of the centre of mass relative to the base of support there. This guy's really, really frontside heavy. There's other things going on, but we're just trying to look at it from that aspect at the moment. Bring up the video of those people. I think it's always good when you see it in action. Here we go. So here she goes. Watch the skis. See how they have no choice but to just start sliding away. Sliding away. She's thinking it's good to get forward. There goes my legs turning. But then she stays forward, forward, forward. So see the skis continue to break away on her because of the friction difference. And then it's only there she really kind of gets in the centre of the ski again. A little bit better on this side, I think. Can you see throughout more of the end of the turn she looks centred? On this side, really forward. See that? Forward, 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 forward. Okay. That's the other guy. Here he is. So through the end of the turn, when you do not want that ski to have torsion on it, he's creating a lot of torsion on it. So, I thought it would be a good chance to experiment with some ways I've been trying to help people be able to feel like a more exaggerated changes in front to back balance. So hopefully there's enough space in here for everyone to kind of find a bit of a spot to try this. But I'll just do a quick demo first. If we're all aiming for high performance turns, and high performance turns end up to make the ski work at the end, we end up more in these positions, right? These lower positions. So say we start from that point. So the problem is, how do we get back to being sort of forward if we want to steer the ski again, if we want to just get back to the middle point so we're not always burning our muscles out? How do we get forward? So one way is we can bring our hips up and over, okay? And that's a totally legitimate way, yep. A couple of things are going to happen with that. As you're going down a slope, though, you go down a slope, you finish a turn here, yep. If you go up, so you bring your centre of mass from being here and you take it up a little bit as you're going this way, then you end up going in this direction. And the problem is the slope is falling away from you, so by the time your centre of mass comes back down, you're going to fall a long way. There's a lot of distance covered without you having a good connection to the snow. Okay? If you're going really slow, it doesn't matter so much, but the faster you go, the faster this happens, and also the more you'll bounce up. So how do we get across there, getting forward without maybe losing the connection? So you've only got so much range of ankle flexion in a ski boot. Yep, you get resistance. So what I think a lot of the good guys are doing is they're actually getting to here, and then their whole ankle-foot complex is quite stiff and rigid, and they're actually going like this. So they're toppling forward over a rigid foot and boot setup. side on, the ankle, so your toes are down here, ankle joint, knee joint, they're basically toppling over this pivot point, not flexing further at the ankle. So the shin is not doing this as much, because this, I don't feel a great deal of center of mass falling forward, but when I make the pivot point, or the lever point here, which is the same as a wheelbarrow, it's a class 2 lever, and I leave this rigid, because my whole body weight is coming down through this shin bone here, leave this rigid, I now get this effect. There's a lot more power in it. I don't need to come up to do it. I can just topple forward, and my legs are going to extend because they're going to try and find the ground. So from this position to that position, where you've tiptoed over, as opposed to just changing the angle of the shin, which still brings the load back into this point, not tipping it over. Does everyone want to just try that? Just try standing in a low position and try shifting your weight forward by just letting your shins, letting your ankles bend. Yep. So do that a few times, and then then stiffen your feet, like kind of tense your feet a little bit and your ankles. So then when your knees go forward, your heels lift at the same rate. Yeah, and everyone should feel it fall forward.
So your ski's following your...
So when you do that, that's a really good question. So you're obviously not, and you are here, you can't, your heels don't come out. So what will happen is, you make that same movement, and now you've ended up, you've got some leverage to pull the back of the ski up, load the front, very quickly, okay? So this is now free to change direction. You've also got to understand when you're across the hill, your 4.5 stance doesn't need to adjust to the slope angle. It doesn't matter if you're on a black pitch or a green pitch, standing across, if down the hill is that way, across the hill at double black, I can stand like this and I don't feel unbalanced in this plane. But when I stand down the fall line on a double black pitch, I need to go back, and if I'm walking up that double black pitch, I need to lean forward. So it's because you're coming out of a turn and your center of mass and your alignment is now facing down the slope, this is the point where you start having to adjust your forward and back balance. And it's changing because the closer you get to the fall line, the more that's really affecting you. After it starts affecting you less, more again, more, less. Yep. So you've got to constantly adjust that. So that's right, that's your question. So when you're coming out of here, as you do rock forward, because the slope is dropping that way, you've got a little bit in effect, you're actually following the slope angle. And I'll bring up a modal skier because that's the best example of going from the slope angle changing completely from here to like that. So you need to be able to get over that in the quickest way possible. Anyone got any questions so far? No?
I've got one. So, how does if you're going forward, how does the boot interact with the shins and legs?
How do you think it interacts? Would be my first
You,
question.
been told you don't want to be putting too much of your weight on the front of the boot,
Why do you think that?
because then you're not centered.
Okay, and so if the slope is changing, the steep slope is changing very quick, and you're not anticipating that, then perhaps what's going to happen is as you go from transition into the start of the next turn, you don't stay in the centre because you don't anticipate that change. So it's all relative to what part of the turn, right? Like that's why I don't say you should never feel the front of the boot. It just depends what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to achieve the ski to skid more? Are you trying to not? Like what sort of turns are you making? It really depends. So you've got to get away from, oh, someone said I should never push on the front of the boot. You've got to go, what happens when I push on the front of the boot? And then that connects with my binding, which connects to my ski. What does that do to the ski? What am I trying to do? They're the kind of things you want to ask yourself and go through your head with. Here we go. Actually, no, there's a better one. Where is it? Sorry guys. Tiny. That'll maybe do. So this is John Luke Brassard, really good mogul skier. So what I want to point out is shin angle here. And then I want to point out shin angle a moment later. And a moment later again. So starting shin angle, there, and can you see he's gone like that far over the bump? And has his hips really risen? No, they've just followed this toppling point here. So there's your bump. Do another one. Bump, ski, foot, shin. So if you use this like a lever, if you just push this forward like that, can you see you've got your mass forward, but you haven't really affected the ski to follow the terrain. But if you do it like I'm saying here, which is a class 2, it's a wheelbarrow. A wheelbarrow is kind of how you want to think of your foot when you go over a bump. The handles are at the back here. Yep. So that's where you lift from. The pivot point is up here. That the wheel is at. You're tipping forward. You are the load or the rocks in the wheelbarrow, and you want to get the rocks out of the back of the mogul and put the rocks dumping down this way. So you tip over. So you do that. And then the ski is now here. Shin angle, mass. And you keep driving that forward over this pivot point, not flexing your ankle. Yep. And then you get down there, like here's something. Go back. Can you guys see the biggest thing that changes is his shin angles? Yep. He's doing some edging stuff as well, of course, because he's got to get some grip. And then we can take it down. Shin angles straighten out. Boom, they're almost going back up the hill to deal with the force there. And then watch, look how good he is at getting them to come over. Yep. There's going to be some use of hamstrings as well, because when you're sort of in the air, you can do that. It's the same sort of thing, but if your feet are on the snow, that's the move. The quickest way to get your mass forward without your mass going up and then having to fall down the bump further. I wasn't planning on doing this next bit, but what the hell, we'll do it. Because I've been thinking like there's two problems you kind of want to solve, and one is how you get your mass forward, again from being a bit back, because it has to sit a bit backside heavy to make the ski work at the end. So how do you get your mass forward again without taking a long time and going up and leaving the snow? That I think is one good way of looking at a strategy to do it. The other one would be is you've got to get inside the next turn, because the first thing we talked about was how does a ski turn the other way rather than skidding. We tip it over, the more we tip it over, the more it can bend, and the side cut is then used. So how do you get your mass from being inside on this side over to that side quite quickly and efficiently? And with my group, I said there's two things you can control. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to create an unbalanced toppling effect. When people start a turn and they think to be balanced, when you start balanced, you're too stable, and this stable position doesn't want to make something topple over. Like if I stood in the middle of this table, and standing in the middle of the table, I now tried to move this table over, right? Because I'm in the middle of the base of support, it's very hard. But if I stand up and I stand right on the edge here, there you go, my mass is enough to topple. And that's going to be the quickest, most efficient way to topple it. So if I'm here, down the hill, and we're just looking at how can we get inside this turn quicker without losing connection. If I take away this, that's like taking away part of the legs, and now I could be a bit more in the centre of that table and it's going to fall. Does that make sense? So I'm here. As long as I'm using this for a bit of support first and I've got my mass directed here, if I'm in here and my mass is here, I can take this away, it doesn't matter. If I'm here and I now take it away, I can move in, and I don't have to actually contract any muscles really, I'm letting it go. And then the second one is, if you look at, if the pivot point to fall fastest this way, the fastest pivot point is the most inside edge of this foot. Yeah, the most inside part edge of this foot. Yeah. If I think of my pivot point being here, I've got to overcome, it's like me doing, I've got to overcome these legs and I've got to lift it up and over. But if I bring these legs in here, I don't have to overcome as much, it'll topple easier. So the second thing, if I think about removing this, second thing, if I think that's my line that I can topple on, if I then get every bit of my body aligned there and just inside, then when I take this away, I'm going to move in very quick. So if I go here and I keep some body, I move my knee in too much first and I leave this behind, I'm not toppling. I'm going to have to force the edging to happen. Yeah. If I can get things aligned and I can play around with like the more things I line inside, the faster it's going to topple. The less mass, the slower. So you can play around with how much that quickly topples you. And I'm going to bring back the Ted Ligety video because I think this is a good viewpoint. So Tim and I were looking at this, and it's like, okay, flat ski point. Or somewhere in here. Now look at how much of his weight is sitting, like here's the ski edge, somewhere along there. More of his body weight is this side of this pivot point. So when he takes away his left foot, in he goes. He's falling. The faster he can remove that and almost let himself suck down, the quicker he can get inside. Then we go to the next point. Skis flat about here. Let's put his, there's that point. to get inside of. Can you see that like probably 2/3, maybe, yeah, at least 2/3 of his body weight is sitting this side of that line. So it's going to want to fall this way and help him edge. If more sat this side, it would be more effort and slower, and he might have to push to overcome his body being on this side of that tipping point. Does that confuse everyone, or is that?
So you're saying when you're weighting your new downhill ski, you don't actually have to put much weight on it if you've got your mass further down?
If you're weighting your new...
So if you're not like he is over that way,
yeah,
you can put more force on your new downhill.
You can put more force on.
You
yeah.
need to get the same effect. So he's removing that need to.
Yeah, he's removing that need to, exactly, because he's just using load of his body to do that. And that way, because it's an unbalanced, like if you stood like that statically, you'd start falling. Then that means without a push, whenever you extend, you're always going to go up. Right? As soon as any joints extend, you're always going to go up. So there's the possibility you're going to disconnect from the snow. So if you can extend because you're just falling and you're trying to stay in contact with the snow, that's different. So I think he's using that to his advantage instead of someone else who's on this side of that point, having to put some muscular effort in, pushing. Now they come up with that problem of going down a slope and they're falling further and have to wait before they get a reaction.
So to clarify, so this is what we're talking about, creating a carved turn.
Yes, this is because like that first slide, to use the ski, tip it, load it, it bends, side cut presses, that's one way the ski turns. So it comes back to that again. So you can use any combination. You can be doing that, be a bit forward so you get a bit of steering angle to shorten it even further. It becomes like you just end up then seeing what you want to do to create the outcome. So I'm just going to show, as a bit of an experiment, I want to show you, I think, how much people struggle, because this is a very unstable point to be in, this point where Ted was, where he's going to fall inside. So who wants to be a volunteer to demonstrate how stable they are? Okay, Josh. So face this way in your ski stance. The task is to try and get your mass this way as fast as possible.
That way.
That way.
You're going to fall down.
The task is to get this way as fast as possible. Right? So that's a very quick way. Okay, stay there. Just, can you come up? Yeah. I gave away the answer too quick about to do it. How would you move inside a turn quickly? Like this way. So if you stand in a ski position, yeah, and you try to go that way. So everyone's starting to get it now. Try it again. See, there's a bit of a delay there compared to Josh. So this pressure's on. Alright? So he's allowing things to fall in. So you now go ahead. He's going to try and fall. Can you see for a moment he's balanced? Balanced. I know we all think that balance is good, but balance, or I should say, he's stable. Not balanced, he's stable for a moment. When you're unstable, you're very mobile and quick, right? This is more stable because of this than my iPad pen, right? So this can fall and drop quicker because it is unstable. Yep. So the key to, thank you, the key to fast skiing is being able to find that edge of where you're unstable so you can then move very quickly. And trust me, it is the hardest thing, and the group this week agreed, who was in my group? Is anyone here? Mike, Steve, yeah. Was it quite difficult to get that point where you trusted, like letting things drop in, like the pen drops in? Yes? Yes? Yes?
What I found really helped me to connect to that was the idea that if you're standing on a flat foot, you're stable. But if you think of standing on a curved ridge on the bottom of your foot, you're never stable, and it's very easy then to just fall.
Yep.
So never let yourself be stable.
Yeah. Well, look for really, if you want to move quick, don't try and be stable. There's other points you want to find that's going to be stable, like through the end, right? Yeah, where the most force is. Yeah, and you'll see it. You'll even see it. Tim and I were watching sometimes in the World Cup. You'll see people start with a wedge. Yep. And it's actually quite a clever tactic, because if I start with a little bit of a wedge like this, as soon as I remove something here, I go. Yep, I go. Whereas if I start flat-footed here, even, I take this away, it's a lot slower. So use this to advantage. I'm not saying everyone should be out there trying to fall inside the turn as fast as possible. But if you at least know, you can play the extremes of, right, that is how you do fall inside the turn faster. This is how I fall in slower. Ever in between that is kind of like the gears that you can use to change, change your performance and make this thing work for you. So we'll take a little bit of a break, and for like 5-10 minutes, just stand up, walk outside, get rained on, and then I've got a second thing if you want for that. Oh, that's absolute crazy talk, or that helps make sense of things. Like, any feedback from people in the room? Great. Okay. All right, moving along. So, I made this lecture about angulation, and I'm going to do a shameless pitch. On my website, I have 7 videos that you can purchase and rent, and they cover various topics like this, and I'm continuing to add to them. So you can rent this again off my website, functionalbody.com.au, to go over stuff like this again, and I'll have stuff in there that I won't present today. But I did this because I think angulation is a pretty, what's the right word? It's not well understood term. Like, what is it really, and why do we need it? And I think it's a good follow-on from what I just talked about, where people are probably walking away going, I just got to fall forward, and I've got to fall inside as fast as I can, and I'm going to ski well. It's like, no, that's just a bit of something that's happening in ski. So what is angulation? We should go back. Who thinks they know a good definition of angulation? Creating angles. Nice, that's a good one. Yeah, so then can you give me a reason why in skiing you would use angulation, why you would need angulation? Okay, one. So we've got one here. What did you say? To grip more. Okay. This is good. So angulation is to grip more. What else? What do they think? What else do people think angulation is for?
It's put the center of mass on your body's line.
Put center mass on your body's line.
Body's bone line.
Okay. So C-O-M, like in line with.
Have a good support.
Support.
Because your center of mass
Is in line. Center mass on top of base of support. Any other ideas?
First one now, coach Steve.
pressure on the outside ski. So angulation. So would you say, if you were to say to someone, here's the definition, angulation helps me pressure the out, or helps someone pressure the outside ski, like what would you say? Angulation maintains pressure on the outside ski. Angulation maintains pressure outside ski. OS. Any other ideas? Easy body weight transfer. Okay, so body weight transfer. Any other ones that we've got? Just think in your heads, like my coach said I need to angulate more at the end of the turn, whatever it is. Like, why am I doing that?
Counterbalance.
Counterbalance, so it's a counterbalance. Okay, cool. Alright. In my head, angulation is making angles in the body. But the whole reason for angulation, I feel, it's just to shift mass laterally. That's it. That's all it's for. Because I can angulate, like if I create an angulation through my spine, now masses shift laterally this way. You could actually say, like this is angulation, because I've shifted mass forward. Flexing my ankle is angulation, but in skiing laterally, just simply think about it, it's a way that you shift mass laterally, in or out of the turn. Yeah? And that then helps with body weight transfer to counterbalance movements when you're going at a certain speed, which then would enable you to grip more. I think what I want to point out here is, we'll get to it, but angulation is not edging, right? Look, I can angulate and I haven't changed my edge angle, right? So always think angulation is a shift of some mass in or outside of the base of support, or still laterally. So just some places, we'll go, here it is again. So angulation versus edging. These two guys from the demo team have, if you look at their lower leg and ski angle, it's kind of the same point in the turn, but you see that about the same amount of edge angle. But can you see the way they've adjusted their mass laterally is from different places? Can everyone see that? Yep. So angulation is not edging. Okay? They've both done edging. The angulation is how they maintain their balance laterally. So where can you do this from? Starting from the foot, you've got the subtalar joint, ankle joint. You can create an angle there. The knee joint, which we'll go into a bit of detail about. Hip joint, everyone knows about, and spine. The two biggest places to do it from. Your neck, and even your shoulders, because if I do this, mass is now out that way, so it's a shift of some mass through creating an angle. Yep. Both over here, now there's more weight here, there, cancel each other out. Yep. So think of bits of your body as mass, and the angulation is just moving it around to then have an effect on the skis. Coming back to the skis again. That's good. One of the guys came up to me and said, already is like, so what is the difference between what you're talking about before and inclination? And I said, it's not, I'm talking about inclination. He said, I thought inclination was bad, I thought I was not meant to do it. And I think a lot of people get confused, but you see, like Ted Ligety doesn't have a lot of angulation, does he? He's got a lot of inclination. Like the biggest angulation he's got is at his neck. See his shoulders are? Yeah. Because you can't ski around the hill like that. You've got to give your eyes and ears like a level kind of position to give yourself the best chance of balancing. So, yeah, coming back to that foot thing, so inclination could be maybe defined as is a lateral movement around a pivot point of the ski's edges. So you can incline around that point or around that point. A lot of people tend to do it a little bit too much around this point, don't have as good a connection with that one. The feeling you get when you do it right is that free-falling sensation. Just to give you an example, I'd like to show you an example of how I've changed over the last 5 years in terms of inclination and angulation. That was last year, that was 5 years ago. So you can see a lot more angles going on, a lot less angles going on, because what advantages would a position like this have over a position like this that you guys could think of? Would it be stronger or weaker? Stronger. Yeah. Pretty much that would be the reason. So what's the risks with this? Balance, yeah, exactly. So lots of angulation, you could say is someone a little bit wary of where their balance is, so they're kind of keeping more of their mass on the outside of that tipping point versus allowing stuff to be pulled inside of that lateral tipping point. So Josh made a good point, is like the reason you can play with this stuff in skiing but not as much like here, because I'll fall over, is because of turning forces, because of centripetal force as you go around the turn. So you just have to trust that if you go fast enough and the more you tip it over, that force is going to hold you up. And it's probably a good point to actually put up the definition of centripetal force. Any engineers in here know the definition of centripetal force? No? So test me if I can remember. Mass times velocity squared over the radius. So when you're going around a turn, where's my skeleton again? So centripetal force is the force going this way. Okay? You all feel centrifugal force, not centripetal. Centrifugal, people say, is not a real force, but everyone feels it, so I reckon it's a real force. That's the one that feels like you're really pressuring the outside ski. But think of that as centripetal force just pushing harder against you, so you're having to resist it. So, if you want to lean right over, like I've started to get better at doing over the years, you need a bigger number. You need more of this. You need more of this. So how do we get more of this? Well, our mass is constant. You can't get heavier in a turn. Okay? So forget about that. The two variables you can change is the velocity and the radius of the turn. If anyone's good at maths here, which one of those, if you change, would increase the force more? Velocity, nice. Yeah. So if we were going down the hill and we're only comfortable going at 10 kilometers an hour, we get to square that, so we get 100. And say we were pulling a 10-meter radius turn. We've got a ladies kind of slalom ski, so a 10-meter radius turn. That squared equals 100. So 100 divided by 10 equals 10. So we've got a force factor of 10. And then your coach goes, you're falling, like you're still leaning on the inside ski. Like you've got the right movement, like you're inclining, but you're falling on the inside ski. You need more balance on the outside ski, right? Well, instead of doing this, which would work, shifting your mass laterally, That's not going to, remember, angulation doesn't change edge. Edge angle changes the radius. Remember, the more you tip that ski over, the more it bends, the tighter it can go. Okay? So, I need more force. You could just go faster. So if we even go at 12 kilometers an hour, 12 squared, 144. 2 kilometers faster, now divided by 10, we get 14.4, which compared to before is going to feel like almost a 50% increase in that centripetal force